Welcome to another episode of Girl, Can We Talk? You know, our couch talk where we sit around and giggle, or when we lay across the bed and talk about that tough stuff. Maybe it's when we chit chat on the phone about how our day went. Yeah, this is that space. It's that time. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we dive into another episode. And by the way, did I mention my name is Cheryl? Yeah, it's me, your girl. So let's get into this. Hey girl, can we talk? This is exciting season. This is season 3. And this season, we're doing something totally and completely different. We are now going to be audio and video. So you will be able to see our lovely faces and get to know us, and we'll get to know you as well. But today we have a special guest, Pastor Whitney. And she's going to be sharing with us a little bit about some experiences that she's had. And I hope you're blessed, because I plan to be blessed. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. How you doing?
I am great. And yourself?
I'm good. I'm excited to have you with me. I've been
I'm so
anticipating
glad you
this.
invited me. I'm so glad.
Good. So the reason why I asked you to come on is because you were talking to me about your experiences that you had with going through the change. Because as a woman, we typically don't think of that until we start experiencing some of the differences. And I just wanted you to touch on, some of the things that you've experienced, because as a woman who's getting ready to go into that season of my life, I want to be prepared. And I know that there are some other women who are in the same situation that I'm in. And there's some that are actually in the middle of it. And they might not know, that this is actually going on and how to handle it. And so I'm glad that you were open enough and willing to share your experience, because a lot of women don't talk about it. We tend to keep it to ourselves. And that's the reason why some of us slip through the cracks.
Yes. Well, I would like to talk to you this afternoon about menopause. And some people do call it the change of life, because it is a change. And there's no cure for it, because it comes from God. God is, it's really the stopping of your menstrual period at a certain age. And years ago, it happened to older women. But nowadays, I don't know, some young women are experiencing it as well. And you can be thrown into it early menopause when you have certain surgeries. Mm-hmm. Your female organs removed, partial hysterectomy or a full hysterectomy. And sometimes, if you have a good doctor, he will explain it to you before you go into that. And they have medications for that. But it's not, that's the only thing they can kind of calm it down, but you really can't stop it. Right. There's no stopping it. And years ago, when I was a little girl, I used to hear my mother and other women, older women, saying that if you make it through the change of life without losing your mind, you're a real woman. And I never knew what that meant, because our elders talked in riddles. And so when it first hit me, it'll bring you to your knees. I screamed. My husband was in another room. And I said, honey, help, I'm dying and I'm on fire. And he ran to me and he said, I said, I'm dying, I'm on fire. And I thought, he said, you're going to be all right. And in fact, I cooled off and I had perspiration on me. And I'm thinking to myself, I got to figure out, because nobody talked about it.
Right.
So I was trying to figure out what I did to cause this to happen, because I didn't want it to happen again.
Right.
Because it hurt so bad. I said to myself, if hell is anything like this, I don't want to go. And I was a babe in Christ at the time. And nobody told me. And then when I started asking my sisters, oh yeah, you hang your foot out of the bed and you hang one foot out of the bed or raise up the windows and and I'm thinking, oh, I gotta figure this out for myself because nobody was saying I hung my foot out of the bed, but it wasn't working.
Right.
And you don't know when it's going to happen.
Right.
It's like a thief in the night. It will hit you and you will literally fall to your knees. It's that bad. I had to learn how to not holler because Mother said you can't holler in church now when it hits you. And I had to practice. I said, God, please don't let me holler in church. Because when it hits you, you go, ow! Oh, Lord, oh, Jesus. Oh, and you're not even thinking about nobody else. You just want to get out of this fire.
Right.
I'm 81 years of age now. Now, they say it starts when you're 51, in your late 40s, early 50s. But when it does come on you, the first thing you're going to try to do is figure out what you ate to cause this or what movement you made to cause. But there's nothing that's going to stop it from happening. I went cold turkey. I did not want drugs in my system. And so I told my doctor, he said, we can give you some help. I didn't want help. I wanted God's help. So what I did, after trying everything I knew to stop this thing, I went to God. I should have gone to him first, and I didn't. So I said, God, I can't take this. I said, help me out. Take the fire out of it. I don't mind going through the flashes, but take the heat out of it, would you please? I can't take it. And they kept coming, and they kept coming, and they were just bearing down on me. And actually, when you go through this, when that flash hits you, something does happen to your mind. And the first time it hit me, the Holy Spirit brought it back to my remembrance, the conversation I heard when I was a little girl. But nobody told me that they last for years.
Right.
It's a complete change that our bodies have to make. Remember Sarah and Abraham? Mm-hmm. They were dead.
Right.
That's what happens. Your female, they shut you down. You can no longer have children.
Right.
And I was just in a pickle because nobody told me what to expect and how long it was going to be or anything like that. And I was saying, well, how long do you? Oh, it takes years. It takes years. You mean I have to go through this for years? This heat, it feels like flames just coming up. And all you can do is holler, Lord, help me, please.
Yeah.
It's really, it's not a joke.
I think I've experienced the heat flashes, but maybe not to that extent. I just remember that, I don't know what I was doing, but all of a sudden it was like, just the desert just went like over the top of me, and I was like, oh my God. And I'm
snatching clothes.
Yeah. And hey, are you hot? What is the temperature on it? And Marcus was looking at me like, what's wrong with you? It's like, it's hot in here. You trying to kill me. I can't breathe. I'm turning the ceiling fan on.
Mother said I was trying to kill him because I opened up the windows in the wintertime. I said, well, I'll just move to the next bedroom. He said, no, I'll just have to adjust. I don't want you. No, we're not going to get separated. No. And another thing, I didn't like clothes in the first place. And you can't take your clothes off
everywhere.
And you forget. Like you said, you're trying to get some relief.
Mm-hmm.
And in church, my husband would have to hold my hands because I would be literally trying to come out of my clothes. I'll be trying to slide an arm out so I can get some cool air. And you know what? I thought about this rich man in hell. And he said, could Lazarus go and dip his finger
in the cool
to cool his, and that's what it felt like to me. It was And I don't think they last very long. I researched it, and won't tell you how long one flash lasts,
Right.
how many seconds or minutes or
Right.
whatever. But it feels like a long time. And then the vapors
Just come over you.
Oh yes, it's the perspiration from the
heat.
the heat
Yeah.
that you just got through with.
Yeah.
And if you really, you need to Google it. If you find yourself in that situation, be sure and ask your doctor for help, because there's no cure for it. Now, I'm not saying that you should go cold turkey. I went through LP in school, and I learned some things, and I just didn't want to go that route. I just really wanted to ask God to help me through it.
Right.
And lean and depend on Him. And that's what I did. And He did take, after a long period of time, He took most of the heat out of it.
Right.
And even now I have them, but not close together, but it's not hot. It's just a cool vapor that comes over me. And I don't perspire like some people are wringing wet.
Yeah, my best friend, when I used to take care of her, and she was going through menopause, and she was just 60, like she had just turned 60. But I remember I was at her house one day and I was washing the dishes because she was in a wheelchair, and she said, "Cheryl, turn around, look." And when I turned around, it looked like somebody was dumping a bucket of water on her head, because she was just
drenched.
It was literally just rolling off of her, just rolling off. And we was laughing. Wow. Because she was like, "I don't know what's going on. I think maybe I'm going through menopause." And I'm cracking up because I'm like, what in the world is going on? She was like, "Give me some water." So I'm giving her water and she's drinking it. But I remember when she finally figured out that's what was going on, and she was like, "Girl," she lost 80 pounds.
Wow.
And so she was like, "I'm grateful," because she couldn't walk anymore. She was in a wheelchair. So exercise was very limited for her. So for her to be able to lose 80 pounds and do nothing, she was praising God for it. But she went through it with, like, I guess her mindset was, I gotta go through this, so I might as well just enjoy the ride. And she went through it just like that. Yes. But as a child, my mom had to have emergency surgery because she had some cysts rupture one of her ovaries. And I remember as a little girl, after about a month of her coming home from the hospital, because back then when you had that surgery, they would cut you from top to bottom. Ma'am. And she was like angry all the time. Wow. And so they started giving her shots. And when she would get her shot, it was like a whole different woman. Yes. And so as a little girl, we watched her go through these cycles, and I would be like, "Mama, it's time for you to go get a shot." And she would come through that house and she would just be like, "Rah!
Yes. Yes.
And I noticed that my kids have started saying to me, "Mama, what, are you okay?" Because they say that I act like I'm angry all the time. And I'm having to watch my attitude, because if I know there's a chemical change that is going on in the body as well. You know what I'm saying? And if we don't know that, then we don't have that mindset. We don't know what's going on. We think that it's just, everybody's against us. Yes. But I was thinking about that. We are watching on the internet, like, all these women, they're called Karens. I just wonder if maybe they're in menopause. Wow. Because they act like they've lost their mind.
Yeah, you do. My niece lives in Denver, and she went to take care of her mom, and she had a partial hysterectomy, and her doctors didn't tell her that it would throw her into menopause instantly. And she had lost her mind, and her mother was saying, "I don't know what she's going to do next, because she's crazy." And so she started talking to some of us about what was going on with her. And I told her mother, she's going through the change. It threw her into it.
Right.
The surgery did. And so she's got to go get medication for that. And so when she did, it took a while, but she came back to herself.
Right.
And so now I didn't notice. Now, when my mind would go, right after that, when the cooling off went on, I would get my mind back. My mind would come, I would come back to myself. But the whole time that's going on, I'm off. My mind is not there. And I just wish that they have doctors just for that and can kind of guide us through.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that because I know that my doctor that I just fired, she was much younger than me, and I was trying to explain to her some of the things that I was experiencing, and she was basically like, "Yeah, I don't understand what you're saying."
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I need a doctor that's older than me because somebody can tell me what's going on.
That's exactly right.
And I think it's unfortunate that we don't teach our children, our young girls, that this is going to come and prepare them for that. Even though, when you're young, you don't think about these things because it's so far away. But if we could find a way to introduce it to them so that they can run interference in a sense of, I do know that if you eat right, then those effects don't have to be as severe because I know some studies have shown that sugar helps make it worse. So, but if we don't know,
that's right,
we're going to continue to do what we do. And then when this stuff is going on, we don't know what to do.
Well, I'm going to check around and see if I can find a lady doctor that specializes in that and have her come to the church and speak. We need to know. I already experienced it, and so at my age, I pretty much know. But it's more to it than that. Just like you said, help us through this, guide us. Since you've done research and you found out that sugar triggers it, or makes it worse, or salt makes it worse, whatever it does, we need all the help we can get.
Right.
And we weren't taught when we were coming up. They call us old school about sex or anything. We weren't allowed to date. We couldn't play with other kids. We had to play with we was 11 of us, and so we played together and all that. So anything you learn, you couldn't even marry. You couldn't even leave the house after you got a certain age. You had to marry out of the house. And so all we were told was keep your legs closed, keep your dress down. And they gave nicknames for private parts. Well, I didn't want to do that because I had a hard time in the world.
Understanding that.
I was thrown out into the world, and if you don't know anything,
oh yes,
they're waiting for you
like vultures.
They'll chew you up and spit you out. They're looking for the weakest one, and they'll like you're prey to people out there. And so everything that I learned, I shared with my daughters. Medical wise, when I went to LP in school, and I was just saying to my kids, I said, you have a penis and a vagina. Mama, oh no, they got a TT. No, they have a penis and a vagina. I'm not teaching them that.
I did that same thing.
I'm not doing that. Oh, that just offended her because she didn't. Why would you do this? You did that to me, and I'm out here trying to make it in the world, and I was just thrown out there. You either sink or swim.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, we need to share, just like you said. These young women need to know what's coming around the corner.
Right.
And they're getting younger and younger. What they used to call old folks disease back then. They're born with it.
Right. Yeah, that is true. Some young.
So yeah.
Yeah.
And they're starting the menopause early.
Yep.
And so they need to know, and it's a gradual. What happens is your menstrual cycles become irregular until finally they stop. They don't just stop all of a sudden. They become irregular and on down the pipe, and then finally, after so many maybe years or so, it'll just stop.
I'd like to take this time to thank everyone who has helped bring this about. First, Marcus Williams, Garvaz Creative, Charmel Cofield, and Justice West. My special guests, but mostly you, my listeners. So until next time, stay true, stay you, Stay woman.